The Senate has voted again to block Trump's national emergency over the border, but fails to get veto-proof majority, which means it's likely going to go nowhere, but I'm really surprised to see this. Why there are Republicans voting against Trump's action, it shows there's not complete unity. This is actually a really good thing. Hear me out. The Democrats seem to be ignoring the will of the people, okay? It is true that not everybody in this country likes the president. If we go by standard polls, his approval rating is below 50%. Rasmussen and Zogby have him above 50%. So let's just say it's contested. Easy enough. The Republicans, however, aren't operating in unison. The Democrats aren't necessarily either, but the majority has swung in a dangerous direction where now Nancy Pelosi is catering to the impeachment nonsense. There needs to be nuance and debate even within the parties. And it looks like there are some people who, for better or for worse, voted against the president. Now, here's why I think it's, if you're a Trump supporter, you'll probably, be upset they're doing this. But in the end, they didn't get a veto-proof majority, which means it's not going anywhere. And I think it's fair to point out ideological diversity of opinion are extremely important. So it's actually, to an extent, kind of good that there are Republicans willing to push back on the rest of the party. Same is true for Democrats. Thought it was Nancy Pelosi, but she caved. Well, here's what I want to do. The reason I highlight this story is it's quite short. You'll get the gist of it very quickly. But here's the thing. In this story from The Federalist talking about Ukraine, it's titled, GOP Politicians Aren't Falling for Ukraine Hysteria Like They Did for Russia. I thought it was an interesting contrast to see that there are Senate Republicans willing to vote against the president's declaration, but at the same time, they're poo-pooing the fake news of the Ukraine scandal. I wonder what the difference is, but I think that's healthy. It's a weakness still. It is. Like if you have ideological conformity and everyone just votes for whatever Trump wants, yeah, Trump will win more often. But that's not good in the long run. That's an important lesson for the Democrats. Let's read from CNBC. They say, the Senate voted Wednesday to block Trump's national emergency declaration over the southern border for the second time. Still, the Republican-held chamber fell short of the two-thirds majority needed to overcome the president's likely veto of the measure. Of course he will. It's his national emergency. The Senate voted 54-41 to terminate the emergency as 11 Republicans joined Democrats in supporting the resolution. Earlier this year, 12 GOP senators voted with Democrats. Senator Marco Rubio of Florida supported the measure in March, but did not vote Wednesday. Democrats forced the latest vote in part to put pressure on GOP senators who backed Trump's declaration earlier this year. The Pentagon this month outlined the military construction projects from which it would divert $3.6 billion to building border barriers. Trump declared an emergency in February in order to allocate money for his proposed border wall after he failed to get the funds from Congress. We know all this stuff. We get it. They say lawmakers voted to terminate the emergency in March, but did not have enough support to override the president's veto. By law, Congress can try to block the declaration every 6 months. So it's not surprising they did it again. They say, the Trump administration will pull its biggest pieces of funding from 2 U.S. territories, Puerto Rico and Guam, but it will still pull significant sums from the states represented by GOP senators vulnerable in the 2020 elections. That includes Cory Gardner of Colorado, Martha McSally of Arizona, Tom Tillis of North Carolina. All 3 opposed the resolution to end the emergency declaration during Wednesday's vote in March. Okay, I don't want to read too much about the nitty-gritty here because I want to get to the point about Trump and support and the contrast. They say, Tillis and McSally face Republican primary election challengers. This is interesting. Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer tried to put pressure on Republicans to block the national emergency earlier in the day. He said a vote for the president today is a vote in favor of cutting funding for our military. And yeah, okay, I get it. Listen, I don't think Chuck Schumer actually cares. I don't think most of these people care. And I don't think Mitch McConnell cares. I don't think any of these establishment incumbent, long-standing congresspeople care. And I don't care. It's politics as usual. The only thing different is Trump. You know what I mean? Well, the left is very different. They say Majority Leader Mitch McConnell, meanwhile, called Wednesday's measure a show vote, accused Democrats of wanting to invent a false choice between border security and other important military construction projects. Okay. Look, take it for what it is. I'm not super concerned about this. It doesn't overcome a veto-proof majority. The interesting thing, however, is that when it comes to Ukraine, we're not seeing. I'm not going to talk to these individuals who voted to, take away the national emergency funds. But it seems like GOP members are much less concerned now about potential blowback over these scandals. Probably because the Democrats have cried wolf too much. And that's the important point. I know it's kind of late in the show, but the point is, when it comes to what the Democrats are doing, here's the advantage. You can actually get some people on your side and take action and make a statement. Instead, the statement they make is on hoax nonsense. Okay, I'll walk back the hoax stuff, just over-exaggerated, overhyped nonsense. Federalist writes, unlike how they handled the Russia collusion conspiracy theory, Republican politicians have shown themselves less likely to fall for the Ukraine story being peddled through leaks to the same sympathetic reporters from anonymous partisan sources. On Sunday, CNN's Jake Tapper amplified a tweet from Senator Mitt Romney with some additional commentary. Jake Tapper said, first GOP official I've seen to even stray in the general direction of possibly thinking of approaching condemnation. Yup, just Mitt Romney. In recent days, resistance figures have run an operation similar to the Russia collusion conspiracy that gripped the country for years. That since debunked conspiracy theory supported by daily drips of bombshell news reports from the media, including Tapper, was that Trump had seditiously colluded with Russia to steal the 2016 election. Even the partisan probe ostensibly led by the ailing Robert Mueller was unable to find a single American, much less the president of the U.S., who had colluded with Russia to steal the 2016 election. The hysteria about Russia caused real harm to the country's foreign policy and administration of government. No one has yet been held accountable for perpetrating the hoax, and many media are helping the co-conspirators in the hoax avoid that accountability. They say, now similar figures are alleging, based on anonymous source without firsthand knowledge, that Trump should be impeached because of a phone call he had with Ukraine. Because I've already talked about all of this, let's skip over and get to the point where we get to the fact that Republicans aren't playing the game. What Tapper highlighted is worth highlighting. While during the Russia hoax, nearly all prominent Republicans expressed concern about collusion with Russia to steal the election, rushed to microphones to condemn the president for what turned out to be a false smear of sedition, and went out of their way to protect the relentless investigation of him based on lies secretly funded by Hillary Clinton and the Democratic National Committee. This time, it's mostly just Mitt Romney. It's just him. And I don't know why, but I guess that's all you get. That's all you get. That's the point, right? There are Republicans who are absolutely voting against Trump, but they're not saying anything about Ukraine. I think the issue is this. There may be people who aren't in line with the president who are on the Republican side, but, they're not going to fall for this again. The Democrats look silly. They're prancing around screeching, not a transcript. Oh, it's not, Trump, it's proof, all this other nonsense, and it's a nothing burger, man. Republicans don't want to look silly. Okay, and even though they reserved judgment during Russiagate, I think at this point they're like, no. The Democrats have no credibility. They say the standard of evidence required from resistance figures in and out of the media to perpetrate yet another Russiagate is so high that it might be impossible to meet. But at the very least, it's higher than what's offered now. Yes, Democrats have wanted to impeach Trump for the crime of winning the 2016 election. And that's it. They're obsessed. They can't. It's pathetic. And they very well might do that no matter what they pretend the underlying reason is. But Republican politicians, Romney and those like him accepted, are either smart enough not to fall for this particular resistance effort, or they're simply savvy enough to realize there is no appetite for Republican politicians to assist Democrats in undermining a duly elected Republican president based on questionable hearsay, a complicated narrative that doesn't even add up, and a desperate desire to undo 2016. And that's all they're doing. So you know what? If you followed my video from earlier today, I was thinking about it and I said, you know what I think Trump is doing? He's trying to show the double standard. I think he does this a lot. By asking Ukraine to look into 2016, and they're freaking out, accusing him of now interfering in the coming election, they're essentially condemning themselves. It's exactly what they did. They went to Ukraine, they demanded an investigation into what happened in 2016. Trump did the same thing, and it shows you the double standard. You have to understand the perspective they have. They're the good guys who can do no wrong, so how dare you? How dare you? They think they have every right to pressure anybody they want and investigate whatever they want, and then when Trump says, okay, I'll do literally the same thing, they screech and they whine. And that's what he's showing people. I think, I was saying before that it was a trap. And I mean that somewhat half seriously in that, I don't know whether or not he planned all of this, but it certainly is working out in his favor. This is a bit of evidence for that. The fact that Republicans aren't coming out and reserving judgment, they're just either saying nothing or pushing back, shows The Democrat cried wolf too much, and nobody cares anymore. Trump is securing his victory by destroying the credibility of Democrats, and they're playing right into it. So I'll leave it there. Stick around. I got one more segment coming up in just a few minutes, and I will see you all shortly.